Hello and welcome to the Watson Weekend. We are your hosts. I am Rick Watson.
Hey, it's Jessica Liseski. I am back after a little hiatus. Had some offsite work, some 2025 planning, setting the stage and the foundation for some amazing, future ahead. But Nick had my back, so I know you guys crushed it last week.
Yeah, I mean, I love a good offsite planning sesh. There's no better way to forget the last 8 hours of your life than to have an offsite sesh where you don't write anything down and everyone's like, who was going to do that thing?
Yeah, what did we agree on? The other good times about the offsite is you can just pretend the past year didn't even matter.
Right.
Like a whole new start.
Yeah. Yeah, just like an Etch-a-Sketch. It's like the corporate Etch-a-Sketch.
Shake it. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's all good.
This show, we are thrilled to announce, as we did last week, a new long-term sponsor with Miracle. Miracle is a global leading provider of e-commerce software solutions. They help retailers with AI-powered marketplaces and retail media solutions. They actually just acquired a company called AdSpurt, which is their third acquisition in the last 3 years in the retail media space. They have over 450 customers around the globe that are unlocking media opportunities and revenue with them. So
They're on a roll.
we're on a roll.
We are on a roll. Yeah. So do you want to tell people where they can find us? Because the public has spoken and they feel like they can't get enough of us. So it feels like we're just on more and more platforms.
First of all, we're everywhere. We're on LinkedIn and YouTube live, and you can find us there after. You can always find us on YouTube at RMW Commerce. You can also find us on all of your favorite and best premium podcast outlets, such as Spotify, Google, and Apple. We're also on some of the bad ones. What are there? What are some of the bad ones?
I don't know. What are some of the bad ones?
Not sure.
Discords, podcast.ai. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an AI in there somewhere.
There's definitely an AI. People will summarize us, but they can't really summarize us because they don't actually know what happens on this show. So
yeah. Speaking of AI, I'm sure Gary will tell us all about AI.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about our guest for the show and who we've got coming on today?
Yeah. Our show, we're going to be talking all about the venture capital industry, your favorite industry and mine. Again, don't hate the player, hate the game. That's going to be the theme of our show because, look, Mr. Founder, Mrs. Founder, you agreed to take on money dependent on some outcome, asymmetric outcomes, if we're going to be honest about it, whatever the hell that freaking means, which we'll talk about in the show. That'll be another theme on the show is what do some of these fucking words mean that VCs talk about? And so Gary will be just happy to know that I broke the seal on the F-bomb so early.
That's right. Well, and also the good news is when you're a disruptor, Rick, you have to have your own language, right? When you're here to disrupt with the capital D. So
exactly,
it's no surprise that we've got all of the coolest buzzwords coming out of the VC lingo.
Or if none of your investments pay off, you could just sponsor a political candidate. Like that's not happened recently.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Can we say that? I don't know.
Yeah, you can. Of course you can.
All right.
All right. Well, I think we're going to start diving into the headline hangover. And speaking of big things that do they matter anymore in the same way? We've got a big acquisition that happened between Omnicom and IPG. So the big four is going to the big three.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty big. So Omnicom's acquiring IPG. The question I think that we had is like, is this really going to make an impact? They talked about 750 million in savings, which really is, hey, we've got a lot of overlap in probably what we do. We're going to bring all this together, save a bunch of money, serve our clients better, and use the best of both worlds. What do you feel like, Rick?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And the question is, like, when you get a lot of big acquisitions, usually you find customer service goes down, but just because there's so much more bureaucracy and red tape between kind of your customer and the people serving the customer. So here's hoping that that doesn't happen in the situation. here. So
yeah, there was not a
that'll
lot
be
of
interesting.
optimism, at least in the coverage of what had happened. We'll see. It'll be interesting if this is a momentous change or just like you said, a more so what.
Yeah, exactly. Our next story up, we will go to that now. Which one is it?
I think we've got more happening in the world of PE.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Walgreens is reportedly being acquired by Sycamore. This is a company that's seen its market value in the last 10 years go from $100 billion to something like $8 billion. Flexport, is that you? Maybe as part of this PA acquisition, they will open all of our pharmaceuticals, which are locked up.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to just be able to walk into a store and get some toothpaste, get some deodorant, without it taking a half hour and 3 or 4 unlocks on the cages. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I think the industry, specifically Walgreens, has been struggling for a while. It would be a pretty interesting scenario if this actually goes through. Sycamore's last major deal was Staples. They bought at $7 billion in 2017. They did look at Kohl's. Are they just like the rescue villagers?
Right. Yeah. I think none of these companies are going to be rescued. Walmart and CVS both seem like they're on the struggle bus, and Amazon and Walmart seem to be feasting on pretty much everyone else in oh, that's a good one, Linda. I mean, I like it. This last week we had a little bit of Pun Friday here on the Watson Weekend with Nick. Now from Sycamore to Sycamore on Walgreens.
Linda's always going to come through with a good
I know.
pun.
I love it. Thank you, Linda. Next, we're going to talk about Miracle. We actually mentioned it at the top of the show. Miracle has acquired a media network called AdSpurt. Miracle, the company, gave us kind of the marketplace in a box, essentially, particularly in the enterprise retailer segment, is going after a number of other companies in the space, I think, including Publicis, Criteo, and others. In the end, doesn't everyone end up selling advertisements, Jess?
Yes, this is the world of ads. It makes it go round at this point. So it's pretty interesting that they're investing here. Of course, everyone wants a piece of the pie. We've talked about retail media as a business. You can see just the immense amount of profitability it's spitting off for someone like Amazon, and Miracle smartly wants a piece of that pie.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see where they net out in terms of there's lots of different choices, right? So as you get into the marketplace business, do you keep running all of that through Miracle? Do you work with another third party? We know a lot of agencies in this space managing retail media. It'll be interesting to see what the play is.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously a lot of places for retail media on the digital side. Walmart is investing in their stores. You see Costco investing in their stores from an advertising network point of view. Amazon is investing in video and connected TV ads. It feels like every Hulu and Peacock commercial now wants me to do something during the commercial rather than just sit there.
QR code.
Right. Scan a QR code, click a button, test drive a car. Like I'm not supposed to be watching during the commercial, guys. Just
no, we tune it out. Yeah. But
right.
Yeah, get off your ass, scan that QR code and go buy some products, Rick.
I don't want to do that during a commercial. I don't.
All right. Well, speaking of things that we don't want to do, it feels like a lot of people don't want to walk into a Macy's store. Yeah, sorry, I went there. But yeah, so they're closing what you would think is its best asset, which is their real estate. That's been kind of the thing that even activist investors have felt like they could actually monetize from this retailer as the department store continues to get pressured from yours truly, Amazon, but now Shein, Temu. Again, the world is not going around. If you remember, we talked about Macy's bold new plan. I'm pretty sure we broke that news on this show.
Yeah, we broke it. We were the first person.
We broke it and we broke it down. So the part of their bold new chapter is boldly closing stores, I guess. And getting rid of their footprint. So they're going to close 65 locations by the end of 2025. And, you know, people were really waiting and like bended knee for this announcement, because remember, they pushed their earnings because of the whole like whoopsie of the 150 mil that, you know, was the accounting rounding error, or who knows. It was basically concealed expenses. Talk about things being swept under a rug. So yeah. And then on top of that, you know, their total net sales were down 2.4%. So it was just a whole good news story all around.
Yeah, Macy's, I mean, why don't they monetize the Thanksgiving Day parade at this point? I mean, they need to, like, speaking of QR codes, like they should put like a QR code on the butt of Tom the turkey as it floats by, and then we can buy some like gym shorts and things while
Yeah.
we're doing that.
Well, same thing. Like all of these really, it- all these celebrities are on the floats. Like they're all dressed out to the nines. Like I'm assuming they're dressed in Macy's clothes. Wouldn't I want a QR code to get that outfit? Should I
Yes.
not assume? I don't know.
You would not know what's going on there because Macy doesn't tell you. I think addition by subtraction is not a thing, folks. That's what I'll say
No.
about this deal. And after you sell off all your real estate, what do you have left?
Stores with tumbleweeds and a lot of excess inventory. Can't sell
Right.
coats because the weather was bad. So there we go.
Exactly. So there we go there. In the next story, we're actually going to get into Gary's world again with private equity. It seems like private equity investors are strapping on their chastity belt for next year because a lot of limited partners are declining to invest alongside their next deals here. Private equity, it seems like, has slowed down on the acquisition. Some mergers and acquisitions have been blocked due to the administration, the Lena Khan, the whole thing. She was a big loser last week in our ugly, good, bad, and ugly part of the program. She's going to be open to work in a few weeks here. If you look at a couple of, there have been a lot of big private equity transactions in the past 2 or 3 years, like Zendesk, Avalara, companies like that are now, it's hard to be a public company anymore. If you
Mhm.
kind of look at big commerce, you know,
Yep.
there've been rumors that they would take private, and so they're going to remain public. What's going to be the role of private equity if without a lot of new dry powder for transactions?
Yeah. It's sort of rough o'clock. We've talked about this. There like deals aren't getting done. There's not a lot of appetite to go public in this market. It used to be that growth was king, and now it's profitability is king, and it's not that interesting, right? So I think we should bring Gary on if you're up for it, and we can kind of get his take on what he thinks about this story.
Yeah. No, welcome, Gary. Gary and I have known each other for a number of years. He's had 2 successful and demoralizing careers, one in the music business and one in the other industry that's hated more than venture capital, which is system integrator. He was the CEO of Media Spa and Overdose before selling it. And so I met Gary not for the first time, but randomly. This shows you how small New York City is. Our families were expecting at the same time, and we showed up for our 20-week scan on the same day in the same office, not at the same appointment. I will make that point. That is a true story.
Yes, it was very nice to see you there.
Yeah, I was saying it's like the doctor's office where the new deals get done.
Right. My wife's like, "Can we just focus on this pending child, please?" I'm like, "That's Rick. We gotta talk."
Well, welcome, Gary, to the show. We're happy to talk to you and get your take. So, you know, there's been lots of back and forth about what really is happening in the PE market, and if there is things opening up. We had someone just make a comment. Michael said, you know, mega deals are on the slower side. The middle market, lower market are exploding. What's your take on the current situation?
I mean, what I would say is my perspective is really in the venture side, and let's call that a subsection of the PE world.
Yep.
I think the dynamics are roughly the same, which is you have the big shops getting all the money, the middle kind of shops getting lost, and the small shops still fighting it out, but
kicking
having
around. Yeah.
kicking around. So it's kind of like a tale of two worlds. If you're one of those guys who has the great brand and you're Sycamore or your Benchmark or your Sequoia, like, great, there's less competition and you kind of have more of an oligopolistic approach to things. But generally, like from where I sit, I think it's actually a little bit of a whatever burger. Like if you can find companies that are growing and doing interesting new things, then they're going to find an exit. Funds will create continuation funds if they need to. Like people will still there's still plenty of dry powder. If you look at the size of the PE market and the VC market, over the last few years versus the last decade, it's insane, right? It's way expanded. And so a slight come off of this, bubbly time that we've been in is not that concerning to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is everyone fighting over the same types of deals though? Like, do you feel like people are more risk averse? And so therefore, anyone that's got the right, metrics, has a good like OpEx management structure, has good growth potential, already kicking off profitability. Do you feel like people are just like jumping on and handing those deals and like the other stuff's just left to the wayside?
I mean, again, I can really only speak credibly to the world that I'm in professionally, which is, pre-seed and seed stage commerce enablement investing. And what I saw or what I see is that after the kind of go-go ZIRP era of everybody over investing into like any tiny Shopify app that emerged is now a world where, it's actually super healthy for this industry.
100%.
Now it's like, hey, let's
definitely healthy.
Yeah, let's find an idea that can be big, that is differentiated. And if the market is huge and we can have multiple competitors, great, that's worthy of capital. Or if it's something super wild and innovative and crazy and has a reasonable chance of going to zero, that's a perfect fit for our asset class. Like we want that non-consensus, risky, probably isn't going to work, but if it works, it's going to be huge play. And I think that model has been mixed with, profitability and capital efficiency to start with like the VC, bingo or whatever you call it. But the reality is like the capital efficient profitability thing lasted for, the second half of 2022, early 2023. And people realize, well, that's actually makes sense. And we can't invest in stupid things, but the VC asset class requires crazy returns.
Right.
And if you're just focusing on profitability, you might be a great agency. I love to run those businesses.
Yeah.
Right.
But when I'm trying to hit 100x or, we're in the hits business, I'm trying to hit a grand slam.
Yeah.
It's just not a great thing.
It's an interesting thing because I think founders go in knowing it's kind of a hits business. I think conceptually, do you think after they take the money, they think the same way, or they just think like, how do I survive this year or the next year? How do I get to that 100x opportunity? It almost seems like, having been on that side of the table and with a VC board, you're like, when you're struggling to make your next quarter, you're not thinking about how you're going to be the next 100x outcome. You're just thinking about like, how do I not flame out?
Yeah. So I see there's a learning curve that happens. Sometimes the first time founders show up and they're just like, well, this is the way you get money and build a company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I open most of those conversations with, what are you trying to do here? Because just to be clear, if you're not trying to have a $300, $400, $500 million company, and that's a low number that I'm allowed to have because I have a small fund and I can actually manage that. But if you're not trying to do that, like this is the wrong capital source. And then they maybe understand that, realize that this is the only place they can get capital. And then they get the capital. And then they're like, okay, I now have their money. And if they don't have the proper governance in, I now have optionality. And so the game at the early stage is to make sure that you find ways to get aligned so that they can't take the money and be like, fuck, I'm profitable now. I don't want this guy telling me I need to be a billion company. If I sell this thing for 50 million, my family's good. So that is like the natural tension in every deal and every founder that you're trying to assess, and the reality of this asset class.
Yeah. And so we're going to use this as a segue into sort of the exit point of view. I mean, it used to be, I would say, VCs had a generally 7-year time horizon. It feels to me like that's been stretched slightly to more like 10 years, but you're not going to get much beyond 10 years because LPs don't want the useful life of a fund to extend into the more than decade time frame. And seeing that there are not many IPOs happening and some acquisitions are being blocked, talk to me about the future of exits. Is it really just like IPOs have to open up? They literally have to open up, or do you just think that the acquisitions are going to be our future exit strategy, or is there a third path?
I mean, I think this is I have the luxury of calling this a nothing burger because I'm early in my fund life cycle, which is that the reality is that, like, if I had a 7-year-old fund right now and I was trying
for the record, Gary's just saying, I don't need to show results yet.
That is not what I'm saying. Actually, I'm saying yes, and
especially for the LPs that are listening.
Yes, and liquidity is cyclical, right? Like, the IPO market will have its day, M&A opportunities will exist, but more importantly, like, we are a resourceful capitalistic society. So if you have a company that is making money and could be sold, is worth money, then you will have secondary options. You will have these continuation funds that are created. You will have a burst in M&A activity. The reason I call it a nothing burger is because I just don't give a shit until like 7 years out. And I don't know who's going to be running the FTC, who's going to be, president, like what interest rates are going to do. Like, all I know is that if I'm investing in good companies and I have a good hit rate and they're growing, let's go.
You bring up an interesting point, because it seems to me that some of the companies, particularly some of the bigger ones, have created this third lane, not acquisition, not IPO. I'm putting Stripe in this bucket,
right?
Which is sort of the classic example of someone that probably could have IPO'd 5 years ago, didn't, rightly or wrongly, and has done a number of secondaries to pay out the founders and all the shareholders and things like that. Do you think that's in a world where there's some pretty big private, like going back to private equity like Apollo Global has said, like, secondaries in the private markets are going to be the new public markets? This is not your asset class, but it could affect your asset class.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way it affects my asset class is you have to look at understanding the PE ecosystem and landscape to make sure that those folks could be buyers, right? And maybe understanding that when you underwrite a deal, that's not just the downside view is what, like, we used to look at it. It's like, all right, if we don't go public or Google doesn't buy us, like, maybe we'll get PE to take us out. And they're buying it like, 3 to 6 times EBITDA multiples.
Exactly.
Not great.
Right.
I think that now goes into your underwriting, right? And so you're like, well, shit, that might be my most likely exit. I need to have an entry point that reflects that. And therefore you have valuations that are far more sober than they were, right? So I'm doing deals now at 6, 8, 10, 12 million posts that were double that, 18 months ago. And that's huge. There's a lot of leverage there.
And are the founders, especially those that maybe have been in that world in their first company, had an exit, coming back, created something new, are they readjusting and recalibrating to the new, essentially multiples? The
hardest ones, the last ones to recalibrate are the ones that had the good exit, had the run, and they show up and they're like, I have a PowerPoint, 2 slides and an idea, and they're trading on their reputation. Those are hard deals. I don't usually play in those deals because they will get the crazy valuation. The big funds get all excited, and I can't make any money there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For instance, like the former head of logistics at Amazon, Dave Clark, just raised $1 bazillion, and he has this team from all of his like former buddies at Amazon at Augur, and he could be the next trillionaire for all I know, but poor Gary's fund is not going to get in that deal.
Yeah. Nor would it make sense for us.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that like this is maybe too much inside baseball on VC fund strategy, but the way you look at an investment is, or one rule of thumb is, hey, can every investment return the fund, right? So
Mm,
if you have a $100 million fund, you need to make an investment that returns $100 million or not squint to be able to see that.
yeah.
And when you write like we do, 300K checks, 200K checks, 400K checks, the return the fund number on those very high valuation companies quickly becomes 20 billion, 30 billion,
Mhm.
right? So it's just
Right.
it
Not
just the math
realistic.
doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's super interesting. And I think some of the story you had talked about really pushes us into our next topic, which is kind of the idea of the pivot, particularly in the SaaS world where I know you play a lot. I don't think you invest in the consumer side, so we can stick to sort of the software picks and shovels enablement kind of space. In an overinvested market where companies were growing, and they're like, our burn is too high, or now we have more competition and maybe our retention rates aren't where they need to be. Growth slows down. Now what becomes the next question? And so the now what is now really a two-pronged problem. Now what for the next funding round? What do we need and for how long? And then now what is more also from a business model round? Like, how do we make this an easier business to run, a more profitable business to run, so we don't need cash so often? Are you seeing that across the SaaS world, particularly maybe like to your point in the Shopify app ecosystem that got 127 loyalty and personalization solutions out there?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things in that question. So I think in one universe, there's those companies that have maybe flattened out or have not great growth or not a lot of cash, and you see a lot of roll up plays.
Mm,
So a lot of these apps getting bought, and Three Cults, I think, is one of them. There's like
yeah.
5 or 6 of these companies that are doing it at scale, which is like a great business. I think, you sort of get the, unified customer list and you can cross market to them, and maybe you get some synergies and, operational efficiencies of a single
I
back.
didn't think we had started our buzzword segment this
Oh,
early.
it's getting banked already.
Yeah. I'm guilty often. I also think there is a world where SaaS, people have been kind of periodically saying SaaS is dead for a while, and as AI percolates, you can hop on that bandwagon pretty quickly. And I think there are a lot of companies that do need to realize that, like, they need a different model. They need maybe take a page out of the Shopify book where they're trying to get closer to the transaction and taking a take rate, and maybe even giving the SaaS away for free just to sort of start the, fix your cold start problem. So I think there's a lot more, in my mind, the idea is we're typically trying to zig when they zag. And when I find a business model that is not SaaS, and theoretically I'm moving away from recurring revenue and like things that have a known multiple, a lot of VCs stick with that. I love a weird take rate business. Like another thing you'll hear about is now that, all right, here comes the bingo.
All right, here we go.
Like, you have more legitimate agentic workflows in place, reducing operating expense.
Oh,
There we go.
Eric, do it. Bring on the hate, but it's real. And people are, significantly changing their operating structure and sadly removing people from their org in doing this. And there's a whole new crop of every company you can think of in the, let's say, the Shopify ecosystem that built this nice SaaS business and has like the standard model. There's some new guys, half of them are out of Y Combinator and the other half are all over the place, that are building it without people. And, so like I talked to a Series B investor the other day who has a couple of her businesses starting to scale. And she's like, one of those founders who I've been with since the seed round just sort of got religion on this AI thing. It's completely revolutionizing their business. And now she won't look at any deal that doesn't have like a prominent technical co-founder that could be on the leading edge of this, because it is a case of the haves and the have-nots.
Wow.
And that was kind of news to me, because I've been getting pitched agentic workflow shit for years, and none of it has felt real. And I kind of went into a conversation with that investor being like, is any of this stuff real? And she's like, it's everything at the Series B level for me right now. And I was like, and then I started to take a deep dive and look into a lot of the specific instances. And I was like, oh shit, I need to kind of rethink my lens here pretty significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you find it's happening the most? So, in your traditional SaaS business, you have sales, you have marketing, you have product, you have your engineers, you have sales enablement, like all the pieces to make that work. Because to your point, you got to get the cold start problem resolved, and you've got to figure out distribution and where you ultimately going to find and source customers. Where do you see that AI really playing a role in transforming what the dynamic and the composition of an organization looks like?
Yeah, I think the easiest way I think about it is that it's really back of the house to start. It's the operating expenses. You've seen like a ton of what feels like insane overinvestment in like the CX space for AI.
Yeah.
Right. I looked at one that I kind of liked, even though there was so much going on there. And then I counted like 26 competitors within like a half an hour research spell. And I was like, God, this is terrible for an investor, but it's fantastic for innovation, right? So all those guys are trying to like eke out the next guy. And that makes, like this company that I referenced at the Series B stage, where they now have cut their internal team in half, because the ability to sort of like have these agents run tickets and actually execute tasks in full,
Wow.
like the lower level task can be done in full, like, write and publish a press release, right? This can just now be done, and you don't need an agency, and you don't need to pay a platform to sign on and do it all yourself. Like you can just pay per outcome, which is like a different model than SaaS, where you pay for access.
It's
Right.
almost probably hard to even think about it. And how could this be good for people? You know what I mean? Like,
Or the culture of the company, right? Like that's a whole, it's probably interesting if you come up like that and your company's built like that, but companies trying to transform and adopt more of that, it's got to be really tough.
Yeah. I don't think there's any easy answer to that. Like it's survival mode. You're going to lose some folks.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard on culture, except for the people that make it to the other side. At least you're on a viable ship. And those people, I think it's like, it's got to start by making sense and being competitive for the long term. And everything else is like, tough.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think if you are building a company today, one thing I'm taking out of what you're saying is the increasing importance of that technical co-founder. I think for a while you saw technology as an enabler to the business co-founder. The business founder was like, I don't need a technology co-founder because through these no-code tools, I can build a prototype, I can get funding, and then I can figure out my technical co-founder later on. And kind of what you're saying is that the pendulum has swung back in the other direction, that the technical co-founder is all that's required at this point, because they're the only one that's smart enough to take advantage of these new technologies.
Well, I wouldn't quite say that. Like if you want my perfect thing, it's the technical co-founder and then the, sales oriented capital raising co-founder, and together they take it on. Like, because with every breath that you talk about needing to be on the leading edge of this AI wave, there's also a universe which is like, wow, everybody's on the leading edge of that. It's really hard to have a technical differentiation. You just sort of need to keep up with the Joneses there. So what is the differentiation? Well, it's often your go-to-market. Like, can you sell this thing, right? Do you have an ability to say, like, to use the e-com world, like a personalization engine in a different way that stands out from the 25 of those that are out there? And so like having some special go-to-market thing, and to go back to bingo, an unfair advantage, doing go-to-market, that's huge. And it can literally just be, you find that founder who's a force of nature, who just walks in the room and makes shit happen. Or it's, a founder that's built a sales organization and really understands how to do that. Or it's somebody who's leveraging the other side of AI, which is, I talked about the CX side, but then there's this whole go-to-market software wave, which is insane. And I've been trying to do a deal in the space forever, but every time I get excited about one, I find 15 others 6 minutes later, and I'm like, this stuff is so cool, and I would have loved to have it when I ran my agency, but I don't want to put VC dollars into it.
Makes sense. Yeah. Speaking of, it sounds like we've been leading up to this slowly, this buzzword bingo, and now I think we want to go there because I think we can have some fun with it.
Gary's all warmed up for sure.
Exactly. He's warmed up. Like he was born ready.
Yeah.
Buzzword bingo is his life. Let's be honest, people. And so we're gonna bring out the best in Gary right now. Awesome. So we're going to get started. Welcome to the VC Buzzword Bingo. You're going to learn and be entertained at the same time. So
are there prizes? Are there prizes? I think
the prize is a dance party at the end for everyone.
Okay.
So
all right.
that'll be our prize. So a few things that I see on VC websites. Proprietary lead flow. When a VC says, as a fund, I have proprietary lead flow. What does that mean, Gary?
It means you're seeing deals that others aren't by something, by your own special deal flow engine. And like all we can do as VCs is source deals, pick deals, and then help them win. That's kind of it, and raise capital. And so that's just saying, hey, one of those three things we do it great.
Do you trademark that? Is there a TM?
I mean, I'll just tell you this. I talk about that in every LP pitch I'm at because it is a significant differentiator and it is the key to the thing. Yeah. Like if you are just a consensus guy who shows up and grabs the deals that everybody else is looking at on so-and-so platform or so-and-so meeting, then you'll just do consensus deals. And
but let's be honest. Like, what does it mean? Does it just mean you know a lot of people?
It's more than that. I wish it were that easy because I know a lot of people. But it's also like you've done the work to build, like I have an investor community that I run, which is just for commerce enablement, the rec room. I have like another community of operators that are advisors that I tap. So like I have proprietary deal flow through my 2 owned communities.
Gary has a few Slack channels. That's what I'm getting out of this.
And I know
buzzword bingo number 1, proprietary lead flow equals Slack channels.
Yeah. Or you're like, hey, I was a founder and my employees are in the industry where I invest and they often send me stuff, or I partnered with stuff. Like you just gotta, that's all. And it's real.
Work in the system.
Awesome. Yeah. I love it. Pre-seed.
Very different definition for everybody. My definition is product in market, 3 to 6 months, has some revenue. So I know people will pay for the thing. If you're a true pre-seed investor, formation capital type person, it might literally just be the first non-angel money that flows into a business.
Okay. It does not mean the deal fell off the truck and you picked it up.
No.
Okay.
No, the deal has not been planted into the ground yet. There are no seeds.
Pre-seed.
Okay. All right.
I love it. Venture scale returns.
So that goes back to kind of what I said earlier, which is if a venture capitalist wants to make an investment, then they have to be able to kind of return the fund, because there's this idea that there's gonna be 2 or 3 companies that make the whole difference in the fund. So that venture scale returns are, hey, can I get the 100x? Can I return the fund with this investment? If I can't, you may have an awesome company and we just might not be the right asset class.
Yeah. God bless you, but go away.
Right.
You're not for us. You're not for us.
Yeah. I mean, that was, to be honest, that was like the hardest part of getting into the VC industry. Is I'd come out of like a few different operating roles, running like moderately profitable businesses for several years. And I'd see somebody who was like, we peaked at like 22% profitability at my agency on a regular basis. And I'd see a guy running a company with 40% margins, but no venture scale returns. I'm like, I would love to run your business.
Right.
Can't invest in it. Like, nor should you be talking to me. You have an amazing thing. Go just
keep doing it.
Yeah,
keep doing what you're doing.
Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Don't allow a VC to get their grubby little hands and then hire you a whole bunch of AEs. Oh, wait, they don't do that anymore. They just tell you to put AI in there.
Yeah, get some agentic workflows, please.
That's right.
How is that? Vinny, I think we're gonna fire Vinny because agentic workflows is not. Oh, there it is. All right, there he is. Agentic applications. What the hell are you talking about, Gary?
Yeah,
agentic workflow.
That is literally just making sure that whatever the workflow is that people would do. Okay, I received the ticket. I review the ticket. I decide it has to get sent over to this group. That group needs to write an email. That email needs to issue a discount code. It's just that being done by AI.
Okay.
So we're not going to have any first or second level support anymore, anywhere.
I mean, I just looked at a deal where it was the idea of authenticating agents so that when the agent wants to buy on your behalf, we know it's you instead of you having to open up your phone and receive a text code and put it in. We need to automate that piece too. So yeah, it's all going away.
I don't,
She gone.
you said words there, but I don't know
When
when they put together.
do we know? Where can we like draw the first time agentic was ever used? Where did it start? We just want to know.
No
Okay.
idea. Maybe
That's a follow-up
the
show,
audience-
Gary.
We're learning
please,
some things
audience,
today here.
surface that answer and then find that person and put a muzzle on.
We're learning
Yeah.
some things today here.
Yeah.
Moat.
Yeah. I mean,
Sounds like castles and knights. What
It
the hell
is.
are we talking
It's
about?
your defense mechanism. No one can penetrate.
yes. Hey, company, I'm going to give you this money. How do I know that everybody else in the world can't do the same thing? Well, we have a moat. And if they fall in there, they'll get eaten by alligators. And that moat is our go-to-market strategy, our incredibly well-patented technology.
Yeah. Is there
How
a
much
moat
of the-
against Temu?
I think it's maybe the US government. I mean, that's like the entity filling the moat, I should say.
Yes. What about the drawbridge?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. My question was, how many times do you find the moat is moot, or is the moat a real thing?
Is there a real moat anywhere?
Yeah, I think those are totally fair questions. And I would say when I look at the companies in my portfolio that are doing exceptionally well and growing incredibly fast, it's sort of split between just founders that move faster and do things smarter, and just the gains on that over time create. Or here's another one: escape velocity.
Flywheel. Oh, I was going to say flywheel.
Oh,
And so I think there's just like
on the next slide, Jess. Next slide. Jess.
Whoever's really good at business, that could be a moat. And then there are one or two that do have legit patented technical moats that will give you a head start, let's say.
Right. There are actually smart people in the world that know
there is real innovation that is hard to copy. You know, like we have a hardware play, like it's a patented piece of hardware that nobody else invented yet.
Yeah. One I hear sometimes, especially if you talk about investors coming in where existing investors already exist, preference stack.
Yeah.
We're not there. We're not there yet.
Yeah. Preference stack is just the idea of like, all right, where do I stack up in preference when there is a liquidity event? And let's say this company's raised $100 million.
Do you realize your buzzwords contain new buzzwords, or is that opaque to you? Inquiring minds.
It's totally opaque to me until last night on the couch when I told her that there was going to be some bingo going on. She's like, you talk about that all the time. I'm like, I had no idea. I'm embarrassed, but it's the way we talk to each other.
It's how you talk. You're in the world. I
know. You have to be in the world. You have to use the language.
This is our stuff. So anyway, let me use.
There is a liquidity event. Talk to me about the preference stack.
You raised $100 million.
Yeah.
You sold the company for $50 million. How do we distribute that money? Who gets it first? That is your preference stack. Typically, the last money in is going to be at the top of the pref stack. If you have like really hard time raising capital, you have to do whatever you can to get the money. You might have some onerous terms where your earlier investors get screwed, and the new guy has to get their money back plus some before any money gets to the rest of the people. That's the pref stack.
Yeah.
Lots of happy people.
Makes sense.
In those situations.
As long as you sell for more than you raised, you don't really have to worry about it as much.
Exactly.
Right.
Preference stack, not a concern if you have
it's a downside.
A venture scale outcome.
Right. Yeah.
I love this
dry powder. This
powder.
is one of my favorite ones. There's even a podcast called Dry Powder.
Yeah. Capital raised from investors that has not yet been deployed. Sitting on the sidelines waiting to do investments.
Got it. Capital that is not yet deployed.
Yeah.
Growth
Money
hacking.
in the bank. Money in the bank.
Yeah, money in the bank. Growth hacking.
Is growth hacking still a thing in the agentic universe?
I mean, I hear that less frequently. My interpretation of that word is we have a special way to get customers and grow. And it's a little hacky. It's not paid ads. It's, I put this, wrapper on a truck and I send it around the 3 big metros and I do it every day from 8 to 10 at night because of this funny insight, right? This is growth hacking as I see it.
Growth hacking. I love it. Cool. Well, we appreciate definitely, you are our buzzword bingo winner. What is your favorite buzzword, Jess?
Oh, my favorite. I mean, it wasn't up there, but I feel like flywheel is it's still a winner. Like, what's your flywheel? How are you creating inherent value?
Yeah.
Things working at night, right?
Right.
And
network effects and virality.
Yes.
Effects.
I think it's flywheel now moved to network effect, so it graduated, but it means the same thing.
Maybe.
Yeah. What's your favorite buzzword, Gary? Is it possible to pick from all your children?
I would say, Patagonia vest.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, that's a great one. Did you watch Silicon Valley? Did you watch that show?
My wife watched it and loved it, and I felt it was a little too close to home, even before I was a VC, because I did some VC work like right out of college, and I was like, I live this, and I don't want to see the funny parts because it. Yeah. But I did watch a few episodes and found it actually pretty amazing.
It just hurts your soul a little bit.
Yeah.
I think, look, one topic you mentioned here, bringing it back to e-commerce, the Shopify app ecosystem. It's been harder. Like it seems like we kind of went through the Apple iPhone ecosystem tour a little bit because, in 2006, you can make a fart app and be $1 million winner. And it feels like the Shopify app store got there about 4 years ago. Now it seems like there's going to be a shakeout. Is that true? Or is it harder to be a Shopify app today versus next 3 years?
My take would be, yeah, sure. There's so much more evidence that Shopify will just scoop up or do the things that are exciting. And now you have, Klaviyo's and other larger incumbents that have their own version of this thing happening. Right. So like almost every business I look at who's sort of focused on a Shopify go-to-market, I'm kind of like, unless you can tell me that early on in your process, you can sell to all of the other platforms, it's not that interesting.
What are those other platforms, Gary?
It's Magento. It's BigCommerce.
I'm not convinced they exist. Harley tells me they don't exist.
WooCommerce exists.
That's what I was going to say. WooCommerce is a pretty big app ecosystem.
WooCommerce exists. And by the way, it's like, it's not even just US stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's global stuff.
100%.
But yeah, I think if you're starting a business to just service Shopify and you want to have it be, here's another buzzword, a lifestyle business, and you can be profitable, you don't have to hire a bunch of people and you're happy making a nice living, great. If you're trying to do it to get VC dollars and have the big exit, here's the secret. If you build in the Shopify ecosystem and the only one that you want to buy you is Shopify, you have zero leverage and it will be mediocre.
Yeah. The idea about any marketplace I've found, no matter who is running the marketplace, Amazon, Apple, Google, Shopify, you are replaceable. You are. If your app went offline tomorrow, no one would miss you.
Yeah.
I think there are very few
it works out for the
exceptions to
Amazon aggregators, guys.
Exactly. Yeah. Thrasio, hello. Is that a buzzword now?
Knock, knock. Pour one out for those guys.
Exactly.
The dreams have been crushed.
We're excited. It's been so great to have you here, Gary, and talk about these things. You could join us. We have a holiday video to talk through.
Oh, all right.
If you don't know, Jess and I have been previewing the best holiday ads of the year for the past few months, and we are staying. So stay around.
Yeah, don't leave us.
We won't
We're
boot
interested
you.
in your take.
You're going to be back for the dance party.
I will stick around.
We're all going to dance later in the theme of our favorite buzzword.
Ooh.
Oh.
That's a nice challenge. All right.
A little bit.
Stretch.
Limbering up.
Stretch out.
So without further ado, I think we're going to show you a video from Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah. They're bringing
Take us through. Here we go. I think it's coming up.
Store closes in 5. We just need to grab a dozen Stanleys, check, a Nike hoodie, and a Rawlings baseball glove.
Head count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Let's go.
JJ, what? Where is everybody? I made my family disappear. Oh.
Can't put my eyes down!
You're not TJ. You say lies.
Looks dangerous.
He doesn't care.
Doesn't care. He's JJ Watt.
He ain't scared.
Mom?
You're welcome. Sorry, guys. I was just sitting there having the best night of my life. Oh, what's this?
Boom. And a little Clark Griswold in here.
Look, this is why I think this commercial is brilliant.
I love it.
Look, I'm going to give this one a 10 out of 10. You got JJ Watt. You got every the hot Christmas movies flashbacked, and you're showing off so much merchandise in a single ad that really does show you could do a lot of one-stop shopping in Dick's. But I've never seen a store that big. I don't know about you guys. Maybe that's just your NYC store. I'm gonna tell you, that's what.
It's like some of those things were like in a Michael's or something, and I'm like, you sell that at Dick's? I didn't know. So maybe it was like a merch promotion.
Get crafty, man.
Agentic merch promotion.
I got a little thrown off. I got a little thrown off when the sign actually said, "Hey, go to dicks.com." I just felt like that was like a surprise that was going to be a commerce experience. It just seeing it written just threw me off. But otherwise, JJ Watt, Home Alone, I'm here for that.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Someone did say that Die Hard was off. So yeah, that was probably we just needed like a Fista Finsta or Fista Finsta. Isn't that what he says? Sorry, I messed that one up.
Exactly. Love you. Well, it's been a great show. Thank you, Gary, for coming on. We hope you had as much fun as you thought you might. Thank you for dealing with our humor or attempts at humor.
Yes. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
All right, we're gonna dance it off. I'm gonna be the flywheel.
Oh, okay.
Catching a big VC fish.
Let's do some of these.
I want to say agentic. How would you not?